Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dillon. I'm the editorial director for geekvibesnation.com and also co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. If you're new here, first of all, welcome. What we do is we take turns going back and forth, talking about the latest home video releases. Uh, we have a really fun variety of movies to cover. I'm really excited.
And I will start us off here with one that I am very excited about coming up from Scream Factory, and that is The Exorcist III. So yeah, this is weird that it's the first Exorcist movie to get a 4K release, but like, here we go. So let me just show this off a little bit. So you have same here. Let me see. Does it have a reversible cover art? Weirdly, no. The previous Scream Factory Blu-ray had different cover art, so I was surprised they didn't use that as a alternate. So this comes with the 4K disc here on the theatrical version of the Blu-ray, and a director's director's cut of this. I think they call Legion, from director William Peter Blatty, who wrote the original Exorcist novel. He famously did not direct the original Exorcist. He just took on this one, which here I'll kind of break down my personal history with the Exorcist. I've seen pretty much all of them, like even like both versions of like the 2000, like Dominion and Exorcist Beginning, like both cuts of that. But it's been a very long time. I think that did that sometime like the 2000s time. So it's probably been plus since I've seen any of these movies. And I was hoping it'd be nice if the 4K of the original Exorcist, which is rumored to be coming out from Warner this year, came out before this, so I could have revisited it beforehand. Which, yes, I could have got my Blu-ray out, but time is sparse, and I'll get to it later this year. But so this is almost like visiting Exorcist 3 almost cold. It was a wild experience because I had a little bit of lingering context in my brain, but I did not like completely like have all of like the lore and everything. So going in semi-cold to the Exorcist 3, I enjoyed it pretty well for what it is. There are some kind of like off moments within this one, kind of like a little bit almost like kind of silly or just like kind of incongruous moments that it kind of like shifts tone near the end, which I'll kind of get into. But this kind of reminded me of like almost as if you're watching like a procedural, almost like kind of like Seven, and then all of a sudden you kind of throw like the devil in there. So but I really like this. It has George C. Scott, which I love him. He's been in everything, and I love him. He's Patton, so like he's automatically like goat. But it's fun to see him as this detective who is like seeing all these kind of crimes being committed around the city. Like at the beginning, you hear of like this young black boy who's been like beheaded and had his like head replaced by like a statue of like an angel's head, and there's some other kind of like murders going on around the city, and it has everyone spooked. So George C. Scott is investigating, and this kind of gets tied into like one of his friends who is a priest, goes to the hospital and also becomes a victim himself in the hospital, and it kind of like kind of ties in all like kind of the demonic elements. But even at that point, this could like potentially not be like a supernatural movie because it is just like a detective like trying to figure out what is going on in this city, that there are all these killings happening. And like, yes, some of it seems a little bit crazy and stuff, but like it still could be in the realm of possibility. But this is an Exorcist movie, and this eventually leads him to a figure who, as I said, I have not seen The Exorcist in a while, but as I've read, it is a character who is like ties back to the original Exorcist, was like one of the priests in The Exorcist. I also don't remember Exorcist 2 very well, so I'm not sure how the lineage goes of like who was in which movies. But this character, there is like a character played by Brad Dourif, that's kind of like the evil incarnate character, who also he voices Chucky and everything. So like he's already big in the horror space as well. Um, so this film, I like, compared to what I remember of the other Exorcist movies, I like that this kind of does function in a different capacity. It does act as, like I said, almost as a procedural cop investigation, but then it spins off into like some like questioning of like yes, there's questions of like faith and like George C. Scott struggling to believe what is going on, um, and I, where I kind of see some kind of drawbacks in the movie is like there seems some elements that are kind of shoehorned in. Like there's another priest character that's not super developed. He kind of comes out of nowhere and kind of pops in when it's convenient. The finale goes into like a heavily like supernaturally vibe that's kind of different from just your normal like the power of Christ compels you type of exorcism. It goes kind of like big and fantastical a little bit. I didn't hate it. I definitely found it to be like an interesting, engaging take, but I could tell that there were some elements of this that didn't flow completely naturally, which actually does kind of like gets corrected or smoothed over a little bit in the director's cut. The thing that's not great about that one is, as I was going to talk about a little bit, that disc is made up of, it's from a 2K scan of the inner positive, but some of the elements are from VHS dailies. So some of the like the excise footage from the theatrical cut is not in great condition. So it's just kind of like VHS quality kind of inserted, but you kind of get what William Peter Blatty was going for originally. But anyone who complains that that's not presented in 4K, you have to be reasonable, because like I said, comes from VHS quality. You weren't going to get a 4K upgrade of that cut, especially since it's not like a night and day difference. I'm just glad to have that cut as an option along with like a premium version of the theatrical cut. But yeah, it's a very entertaining movie. I think it may not like please Exorcist purists, but if you're not like completely shackled to the idea of what an Exorcist movie should be, I think it's pretty entertaining, especially since you have George C. Scott in it and a lot of other great actors as well. This presentation, I had the previous Scream Factory Blu-ray. I never got around to it, shamefully. Like I said, I hadn't seen this movie in a while, but I did get to this one. That Scream Factory Blu-ray that they put out in 2016 was from a 2K scan of the inner positive. This new 4K is from a 4K scan of the original camera negative, and it's in Dolby Vision. And yes, I did pull that one out and kind of compare and contrast. I didn't watch the whole movie, but I do see a really nice increase all around. Even just like a new 4K scan probably would have been like a good like use of the time of just like cleaning up some of the, like the nicks and scratches and some of like the source deficiencies where things were like not as crisp as they could be. But in the with the addition of Dolby Vision as well, things are really like the grain is really well refined. There's not much in the way at all of like damage or anything. There's a lot of like scenes and darkness in this one, and this has really nice deep blacks, and you don't have like crushed blacks. You get a lot of detail in them, which I really appreciate. There are some like nice bright highlights in this movie, just kind of some almost like angelic-esque light, but those do not get clipped. They're really controlled with the Dolby Vision. This has also, I read that there's been an issue with the audio in this from previous releases ever since Warner started releasing it on Blu-ray. So Warner released an original Blu-ray, and then Scream Factory released it as well. And I think there was a problem with the mono track maybe not being a pure mono track. I think it might have been a fold down. This has been described as a new audio restoration for both tracks. So to my knowledge, this is a pure original mono track, which I think fans have really been missing on a lot of previous releases. And the 5.1 soundtrack is supposedly also remastered. I did not do like an A/B comparison between the audio tracks of the 5.1, but it did have a really nice sound that was really great. And so this doesn't include any new special features, but it does include the 2 previous discs from the original Scream Factory release, which there's a lot here. There's several deleted scenes. There's vintage interviews with some of the creative team and the cast. And then there's a five-part documentary. They structure it like a documentary. You can play each of these segments separately. That runs about an hour and 40 minutes. You do get interviews with Brad Dourif, William Peter Blatty. You get kind of a feature, like a segment devoted to the trouble like that was on set whenever this film was trying to be made. Like there was a lot of production issues, a lot of creative disagreements. So that's really enlightening as well. But overall, Scream Factory originally had like a really stacked release, and then so you have that plus the new 4K scan in Dolby Vision. So if you're a fan of this, I think this is an ideal presentation. I said this is probably going to be the best this film ever looks. It's probably the best release it's ever going to get, especially since I know it's not like a particular fan favorite, but they did treat this well regardless. So I'm curious if you've seen this one, what you think of it, because
yeah, I love this movie. I think it's I think on par with the first Exorcist. And it was really cool because back in the day, I wrote to William Peter Blatty, and he wrote me back and signed a couple things for me. Very nice. I believe he like was based in the DC area and like lived there, so it was kind of cool because not too far away. So yeah, love this movie. I think it's creepy as hell. For a long time, I had heard that this was Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite movie.
Wow.
And he would sometimes make his victims watch this movie.
Wow.
Kind of wild.
Yeah.
And they depict that in the new Netflix thing, or was it Netflix? The Dahmer thing that they just did that is very controversial for some reason. But everything is. So yeah, no, I love it. It's great. It's awesome that this looks great, and yeah, it's definitely going to be a day one buy for me for sure.
Yeah, you will not regret it.
So I'm going to stick with this horror train, keep this going, and I want to talk about the first season of Pretty Little Liars Original Sin. So I'm not sure if this also has a Blu-ray counterpart. I don't believe.
No, I have not seen it. As of right now, it does not.
Okay. So here is a better look at the features. We do have some nice featurettes. You know, I appreciate that. That typically, you know, Warner Brothers doesn't just slap stuff on here without putting a little something. So here's the interior. I prefer this like method rather than like the stacked. So yeah, as for the series itself, it's funny because we were talking a little bit about this. It's, you know, been compared to Scream Queens, and I think that that's an apt comparison. I definitely don't think it's as good, but I do really like how this series pretty much stays true to the I guess sister series, Pretty Little Liars, and also kind of gives it a nice, a bloody homage to slasher films. So yeah, I will say that the characters at times do fill stock. It is filled with like plot conveniences, but I have to say I was pretty hooked, and I don't want to. It's hard to talk about a show that has so many twists and turns because I don't want to give anything away, because I do think it's really worth watching. I think it does, like I say, do a really nice job of kind of hooking you into the story, and some of the writing is a little hokey. It definitely feels very Riverdale-y, which this is from the creator of Riverdale. I'm not sure if it's like in the same universe, but it very much has that kind of Riverdale feel. So, you know, that's where I feel like it doesn't really connect with me, but I did like the overall mystery and the story. So yeah, so I liked it. I again appreciate the fact that we do have some featurettes, which are really nice. A Blu-ray would have been nice because this is a really visually interesting series, but you know, it's just good to have it on physical media, especially with Warner Brothers and HBO Max kind of not sure what they're doing with their back catalog. So if you like this show, you definitely want to own it and you can watch it whenever. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. Not perfect. I definitely feel like Scream Queen kind of plays with this format a little bit better, but yeah, I liked it more than I thought I would.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a confession. I have watched like all 5 or 6 original seasons of the original Pretty Little Liars and like another spinoff. I believe it's called Ravenswood. It was a while ago, but like I am familiar with this universe. I have not watched this one yet, but like if I've watched that much of those shows, I might as well spend a few hours catching up with this one. So like I was probably already going to do it, but you've sold me. I'll check it out and see how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're already like deeply into the Pretty Little Liars fandom, why not? I think there's like even like another spinoff even after that. Like there's this is like the third spinoff, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. There, I've watched most of them. They all kind of like mix up in my head. Yeah. I don't want to like go down the a rabbit hole from like there's a lot going on, but I'm glad that they are somehow figuring out how to continue this franchise in various ways. I'll keep moving along. I have back-to-back 4K upgrades. My first one is from Sony. It is a new Steelbook version of the classic Air Force One with old Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman. And so, yes. So this is kind of goes along with what Sony has been doing in recent years. They've been digging into their back catalog and finding films that they've already released on 4K, but not with Dolby Vision, and then rectifying that and releasing them in Dolby Vision. And sometimes they'll like make other little additions here and there. And I will explain what they did for this one in just a second. There's really no interior artwork. It's just pure like kind of a little purplish blue. But so I actually do have the original like slipcase version of the 4K, and just kind of doing like an A/B comparison to see how the Dolby Vision compares to this. If you had that original release, I won't say like rush out to get this because you probably won't notice like a night and day difference. It's pretty much just kind of incremental improvements. Like you may have like a little bit more like better refined grain, maybe a little bit more tamed highlights, so a little less blooming, a little bit maybe like dark or a little bit better like handling of like blacks, but like it's nothing crazy. It's just like maybe just a little bit better uh handling of like colors and stuff, a little bit more vividness, but like it's not gonna like be like, oh, it's like from VHS to Blu-ray. No. It's like it's minimal quality, but the Dolby Vision does help. This does include a Dolby Atmos track along with a DTS 5.1 track and all the original special features, which there's not many. There's just an audio commentary track, which is only on the Blu-ray, not on the 4K for some reason, which is kind of irritating, but it is what it is. At least you can listen to it on the original Blu-ray. But you get the Steelbook. One of the main things I think is a pretty cool like change that they kind of corrected after years of it being wrong. On the original Blu-ray and the original 4K, there's a line of dialogue like that's in Russian. It's subtitled, and the subtitle has always been wrong since maybe like DVD era. They fixed it to have the right line of dialogue, so it's not like a huge change, but it's like near the end where it's like they repeated a line from the original, or from like a few minutes earlier, instead of like having the line that was supposed to be there. So it's always kind of been like a weird kind of error on Sony's part, and they fixed it for this release. So like you finally get like the film as it was meant to be seen. So it's a minor thing. It's just like a brief moment, but it is pretty cool that they did finally fix it for fans of this movie. And like I'm glad they did, because this is a really fun movie. For those, I don't want to explain it too much, because like it was the 5th highest grossing movie the year it came out, but it is just like Harrison Ford. He plays a president. He's kind of at the time of like this film like beginning, there's like a they like take down this like kind of like terrorist-esque person, and whenever they go, he has him and his family and like advisors take a trip to the Middle East to make a speech, and on the way back, whenever he is getting on Air Force One, some like terrorists sneak on board, one of which is Gary Oldman, and kind of takes over the plane. And then Harrison Ford kind of sneaks off whenever the terrorists think that he's like made an escape. He hides away and then like tries to take back his plane, as you said. So it's basically just like that kind of like standard action thing where it's like Die Hard on a plane, basically, but it's Harrison Ford, and like you get some like pretty great kills. You do get some like nameless people, like henchmen and like victims just like dying and everything, but it's really a lot of fun. You also have like Glenn Close as like the vice president on the ground, and a bunch of different other like kind of character actors and stuff that are just like, it's a really solid, entertaining movie. It's directed by Wolfgang Peterson, who is always like a really great action director. I think we just lost him recently, which is really a bummer, but I really like Air Force One. It is a lot of fun. It's like premium 90s action. And so if you don't have it yet, I think it is worth owning on 4K. It's definitely a step up from the Blu-ray. So I like comparing it to the included Blu-ray, huge step up. If you have the previous 4K, decide if that line of dialogue and like slightly better like compression and colors is like enough for you. But I think it is. It's a fun look. It's like a nice steelbook, great audio. It's a good release. So if you're a fan of the movie, pick it up. I recommend it.
Yeah, and it also kind of leads me to one of my favorite jokes of the Scary Movie franchise. I think it was like 3 or 4 where he's talking about past presidents. He's like President Ford, and it was Harrison Ford from that movie. So
Yes.
but so I have another classic, which it's not action, but I was really excited because I'm a big Joan Crawford fan, like huge. And anytime that a new release of one of her movies is coming out, I get really excited. So Warner Archive just did Flamingo Road, which is kind of her follow-up to Mildred Pierce, which of course won her an Oscar. And as you can see, we do have some really nice featurettes. There's a really good one about her time at Warner Brothers, which I think is worth checking out. But yeah, Michael Curtiz directed this. He's another one of my favorite directors. And this is great. This is a drama, but it sort of plays with that film noir angle where, you know, it kind of follows the same vein of Mildred Pierce in a way where she's sort of this struggling woman who is determined to better her station in life. But there's obstacles in the way, of course. You know, in Mildred Pierce, it was sort of a inverse of the femme fatale trope where the daughter was really the femme fatale. Sidney Greenstreet plays the heavy in this and is absolutely great. He was kind of quintessential heavies in a lot of noirs, a lot of dramas. He had a really great range, but he plays maybe the scummiest character. He's trying to run her out of town. He's using all his political powers to basically just sort of torture her. And it's kind of a nice little game of chess of her sort of gaming the system a little bit. because I don't want to give too much away, but it's really good, and I think Joan Crawford really shows a nice range. Again, this is coming off of an Oscar win, and she definitely feels like she has something to prove. And it's great. I think it's really entertaining. Michael Curtiz is fantastic. Warner Archive has put out a lot of his stuff. So yeah, like I said, there's a featurette about her time at Warner Brothers, and then there's like some classic cartoons and some other little featurettes that are nice. And this looks fantastic. I had seen this a few times, and yeah, I've never seen it look this great. I know I'm a broken record with Warner Archive stuff, but they've never let me down. Like, this is pristine. There isn't a single artifact, scratch, anything. It looks great, sounds great. If you're a fan of this movie and you only have like an older um release, like a DVD, very much worth an upgrade. So great movie. Love Joan Crawford, she's fantastic. So this is very much worth picking up.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big Joan Crawford fan, so I'm very excited to hear that one turned out so well. I have not seen the movie yet, but I'm definitely excited because you talked to me about that in the past, like even before this was announced, like that I needed to see this. So I'm excited, and your review just made me even more excited. Heading out to my next 4K Sony upgrade. This is the same situation as Air Force One. So this is the Mask of Zorro. So you have this removable J card, just like Air Force One. So you have back here, which I'll kind of explain some of what's on here. So you have the steelbook art here. There's the spine here, and nice old Antonio Banderas in his prime on the back. And this actually does have some interior artwork. So I'll show, here are the discs here. Let me pop these out real quick. Give me a second. So here is the interior artwork here. So more Antonio Banderas being dashing. So that's pretty cool. Who tires of that? So it had been a while since I had seen this movie. This was actually just released on Blu-ray shortly after I started reviewing things, but I did not get to review this at the time. This was released originally on 4K in May, I believe, of 2020. So it hasn't been that long since the last release, but it did not have Dolby Vision. Now this one does. But this film, it's like a classic, kind of like almost throwback swashbuckler. At the beginning of the film, you have like the OG Zorro, who is played by Anthony Hopkins. In his younger days, it's kind of like a classic tale of the little guy. It's kind of framed against like the Mexican resistance against the Spanish incursion. And Zorro is on the side of the Mexican resistance. He is like a kind of almost like a freedom fighter, like fighting for the little guy. At the beginning of the film, the original Zorro, his family is kind of like dismantled. His young daughter is like taken by like this evil like ruler. And then it kind of flashes to the future where Anthony Hopkins, the daughter's grown, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones. Anthony Hopkins kind of gets himself out of like his like imprisonment to help train the next Zorro, which is Antonio Banderas. And it's kind of turns into like a kind of a revenge tale, but like trying to like more of a tale of vengeance. And like also a little bit of a romance, just action and intrigue and stuff. It's a really fun classic swashbuckler. And if this is directed by Martin Campbell, who directed one of the best recent James Bond movies, Casino Royale, along with some other titles I've talked about on the past, like No Escape, which I talked about from Unearthed Films a few months ago. But he knows how to direct action. There's so many great set pieces. Antonio Banderas is at his finest in all senses of the word. He is a beautiful man. And also Catherine Zeta-Jones is just perfection. She is gorgeous. She's also really like witty, and like she's game for all these action sequences. It's just a really really fun form. And then like you had the classic thing of like uh characters playing maybe role like ethnicities that may not be always meant for them. It was like a pastime of Sean Connery just playing whatever race the role required him to be. So yeah, Anthony Hopkins, he may not like should be like the prototypical like Mexican freedom fighter, but like it is what it is. But like he's great in his role. But this film is a lot of fun. This new 4K release, like I said, I do not have the original 4K to compare it to, but as with Air Force One, I would assume the upgrades are probably incremental. They're like probably just a little bit maybe firmer, like resolving of the film grain, the maybe a little bit like the highlights. This just has some pretty bright highlights, but I never really would classify them as like veering into blooming. So I think they're like it's a really nice controlled look of the film, and this is gorgeous. I haven't seen my previous release of this was just on DVD, so obviously it's going to be a huge upgrade. But like I can tell, this is just like a gorgeous upgrade no matter what way you look at it. And this has the original Dolby Atmos, or the Dolby Atmos audio that was on the previous release, along with the 5.1 soundtrack. Both of them sound really nice. I believe it's this title. I think I read online that maybe the Dolby Atmos on track on this one may have been like expanded to include like more channels than was on the original release. I cannot like confirm because I don't have the original release, but I think it might be a slightly improved Dolby Atmos track. So don't quote me on that. That's what I've read from people who do have both. So you have that. There are no like from what I can tell, there are no like improvements like the subtitle issue on Air Force One. I think this is pretty much just the Dolby Vision that's like included, plus the gorgeous steelbook. But this does have a nice array of special features. It has like several deleted scenes, some commentary track from Martin Campbell, and a 45-minute making of documentary, which is pretty well rounded and good. So if you're a fan of The Mask of Zorro, this one is a good release. I wish they would have taken this opportunity almost to do like they did with the heavy metal movies and include the follow-up sequel in this package, but they did not. They did that for the heavy metal films. I got like Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2001 package. So I wish they would have included The Legend of Zorro, but this does have The Mask of Zorro, just the original movie, and it's a lot of fun. So I do recommend this if you're a fan. Probably mostly if you don't have the original 4K, but I mean, if you just like, if you appreciate what Dolby Vision brings to a release, like go ahead, upgrade it to your heart's content. It's a really great release.
Nice. Yeah, that is another one that I think is definitely a must own because I really like that movie. And I don't own it yet, so that sounds like it's adding to the pile. um my next title is very topical because of the Oscars. And that is from Lionsgate and A24, which is The Whale.
Mhm.
And yeah, so here is the back, and we do have some nice featurettes, which I do really appreciate that. So no interior art. Now this does have a digital copy that's not in there now. So yeah, this was a really good movie. I would even say great movie. So I've been a huge fan of Darren Aronofsky for like his entire career, basically. I started with Pi and loved it. Um, that holds a special place in my heart because that kind of got me hooked on indie films and the kind of power that indie films could bring. If y'all haven't seen Pi, that's his first film. It's very rough around the edges, but it's really you could really tell that he was going to be a huge name in cinema. So yeah, I really like this movie. It is everything they say it is. It's beautiful, it's tragic, it's a wonderful character study. I found it a little difficult to watch because, they talk about some subjects that I feel like are something that is maybe relatable, which is how religion is, it's a tool like any other. It can be used for good and it can be used for awful, destructive things. So, in the story, the titular whale, played by Brendan Fraser,
Charlie.
he had a boyfriend who commits suicide after his church kind of excommunicates him. And I think it's a vital thing for the movie. It's just, for me, it was like, this is definitely one of those movies that like I would maybe not watch again. Which is weird because it's great, but it's a tough watch for me for personal reasons. But it looks great. I really appreciate the fact that this film definitely has like a really nice sort of, I don't know if this was shot on film, but it does have like a really nice film kind of grainy sort of look to it. Also, it has a really interesting formatting. And I'm not really sure how this was shot, but it's sort of like, I think it was like kind of shot in the same format as like The Lighthouse, where it's not exactly like widescreen.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's 1.33 by 1, I believe.
yeah,
So it's a full frame kind of look.
yeah, which I thought was really nice. I think it serves, this was based on a play, so it kind of serves that really intimate sort of, almost claustrophobic at times feeling. It's that sense of dread at times because you're kind of stuck in his sort of world, which is very like closed in. So I think shooting in that format's pretty brilliant. So yeah, it's just, I don't know if there's like anything I can find to fault with this. It's great. It is a little stagey, but of course it's based on a play, so that's, that's forgivable. I also heard some criticisms that like the daughter is kind of a lot, and people don't like the movie because of her. But like, and in theory, I get that, but I also sort of feel like she's such a linchpin to like his story and arc, and the whole arc of like, you know um life circumstances and forgiveness and I don't know. I could go on and on about this movie. I'm sure they've already written a million like deep dive pieces on this, but yeah, it's great. It's a really nice release. A24 slash Lionsgate always does a really nice job with their Blu-rays. I would love to see maybe a 4K down the road. I don't. There isn't one yet, right? It's just a Blu-ray.
No, I feel if it came out, it would probably be like an A24 shop exclusive. But I guess we'll see. Because I think I heard that they might be doing a Lighthouse one soon as well, which
Mm.
Lionsgate originally released on Blu-ray several years
Yeah.
ago, and so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but this is a really nice option. It looks great. I mean, it's not what I would say a beautifully shot movie. I mean, that's not to say it's not well shot, but it's something that like if it doesn't get a 4K release, I'm kind of okay with that. It looks just fine the way it is. So yeah, good movie. If you're gonna watch it, get a comedy or something afterwards. Like Air Force One
Yeah,
would be a great, that would be a great palate cleanser.
yeah, mindless action movie. Let's do it. My next title, it is from a label that I've been cheering on as they've started releasing stuff this year, and that is from Radiance Films, and that is
Mm.
Fill Her Up with Super, which is a film that I've heard a lot about over the years. I've seen a lot of people requesting it. Let me take out kind of, so this, people who remember the previous releases, this little card comes out that you can remove, so you can have the full cover art here. Uh, without any additional writing on it. And then you also have this reversible cover art here if you want to switch things out. So this is a French film, as you may see from this title here. And this, I really enjoyed the film. I will tell you just a little bit more about it after I finish showing off the packaging. This does come with a really nice booklet during the initial printing. So if you are interested in the booklet, make sure to get it early. This is similar to like Era Video releases, where after the first printing, they will not have the booklet anymore. So you got some great writing in here and just the disc art here. So this film, it's basically a kind of like a buddy road trip movie, except all the people at the beginning of the movie are not already buddies. They kind of like come together as is. There is a guy who is working at an auto dealership. He is wanting to go off for the weekend with his girlfriend. Instead, his boss tells him he needs to drive this car to another city. He tries to put up a fight, but of course, he doesn't want to lose his job, so he kind of agrees to do this. He asks his friend to come along with him after his girlfriend kind of like storms out of the apartment, mad that he's once again canceled on one of their plans. So there's like kind of that lingering relationship drama, like he has this in his head as he goes on this road trip with his friend. And then along the way, he ends up inadvertently picking up two stragglers. He picks up a person who he wants to help out as kind of like in a hitchhiker capacity, but then once they arrive at their destination, he just wants to continue on with them. And despite them being like, no, we're going on our own, he just ends up forcing his way onto the trip. So him and his friend end up coming on this trip. So these four guys are on this road trip. And I've seen this film compared to the film that you talked about on the Cohen Films episode we had at the end of December, and that is Going Places, where it is just a group of people that aren't necessarily always doing what is right. This isn't as bad as Going Places necessarily, but like sometimes they'll just like say inappropriate things or just kind of like cause a minor bit of destruction and stuff. You're not getting like full on sexual assault or anything like Going Places, but this is just kind of like dudes having conversations, acting a little bit rowdy and like all that type of stuff. And you do see them having some interesting conversations, confronting some of their internal feelings, and like they have disagreements with one another and kind of like uncover different nuances within their dynamics with one another. It's not a terribly complex movie, but it's very interesting. It's like mostly takes place in this car or around this car, but it works really well. The times that they do stop at like a diner or anything, they're usually pretty interesting sequences. It's a very like breezy watch. It's a little over 90 minutes, like 97 minutes, I believe. It goes along really nicely. And it's just kind of like it's like a classic, like kind of hangout movie. But there's some depth to there. There's some substance, and I understand why people are clamoring for this for several years. It's just like a really interesting, fun road movie, which I love that genre. I love road movies. So this particular release from Radiance Films comes from a 2K scan of the original camera negative, and it looks really nice. This is a film, I believe it's from the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 76. So you have kind of like that gritty 70s texture. The grain is really well resolved. I didn't see much at all in the way of like damage or nicks or scratches. So they cleaned it up really well. The audio is actually pretty solid too. I didn't have much issue with the audio. It's just like clear, not too much strain, even during like whenever music is introduced. So overall, it's a really solid like audio visual experiences. And then you have a pretty nice selection of special features. Like I said, I showed off the booklet. This also does have a 28-minute interview with the main star of the movie, and then a 28-minute analysis of the movie from like a film historian, kind of like digging into the movie and kind of explaining why it's historically important and culturally important, and why people consider it kind of like a classic within the subgenre. And then you just have like an array of short documentaries from the director. I will attempt his name. Alain Cavalier. There's like a different little like 4 to 10 minute short documentaries on different like either performers or aspects of the movie. There's like 3 or 4 of those, so like just short little featurettes. So all that together, like with the audio visual and then the packaging, I think this is a really solid release. So if you like kind of like hangout cinema and you love French cinema, this is a fun one. Radiance Films did a really good job, so it's just another notch on their belt. They did a really good job, and they've not disappointed me yet with any of their releases.
Nice. So what is your all-time favorite road movie?
Uh, uh, this is just like off the top of my head, so this is going to be insane. But the first thing that popped into my head was like a childhood favorite, a Bubble Boy, because just the adventure that Jake Gyllenhaal goes on, and that bubble makes me laugh. So I'll say that because my brain cannot work any faster.
No, that's a good one. I haven't seen that in such a long time, so that's probably a pretty good. I mean, that maybe that will be, huh?
What about yours? What's your favorite?
Mine is very different. I would say, like again, off the top, like you, off the top of my head, Natural Born Killers is maybe my favorite road movie.
Nice. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
not a great double feature, probably, but uh, so
Hey, have you tried it? You don't know.
oh man, that would. I feel like my brains would leak out of my ears. Probably that would be so mind melting. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of stick with the nautical sort of theme here with After the Whale.
Okay.
Not that these movies are at all similar, but this is the final film in the Birdemic trilogy. Birdemic 3, Sea Eagle. Now, so first of all, let me just show off. We do have a nice array of features. So this film, it's funny because when I posted about this, people were like, "There's a third one." So this was pretty new. I believe this came out last fall, if I'm not mistaken, and this is making its Blu-ray premiere. And I believe this is also getting a individual release, as well as like in the box set. And let me just show that off again because I think Severin did a fantastic job. I love this cover.
Yeah.
Call me simple. I love a lenticular cover. But yeah. So this is weird because I really like the first one. I thought the second one was not as good as the first one, but I think it still was pretty entertaining. Um, so the thing that I hated about the first two films, um, is kind of what this film leads into the most, and that's like its sort of its message, this like eco kind of, um, it's there's a really great, and I'm paraphrasing here, but like Roger Corman always said that, in a good movie, it should be entertainment first and then message second. Um, Birdemic as a franchise has always been interested in global warming and talking about these really vital issues, and that's great. But like, I want a fun, cheesy, schlocky, um, like I guess this isn't really horror. It's more like comedy. Um, but yeah. So this is like by far the worst one. And that's really saying something with this trilogy. I mean, the problem is every single character cannot say a line or a sentence without talking about global warming, forest fires, everything, climate change. And like, listen, I get it, like those are like important things to talk about. I mean, great, but you have every single character talking about it. Like the realtor is like talking at length about this, about the climate change and all this stuff, and I'm like, why? It's like you're hammering this home so hard, it like it almost like feels like you're watching some like third or fourth rate infomercial for climate change awareness. It's just really bad. And again, there's a little bit of that in each film, but like in the last two films, they were sort of not as like overt with it. Like this is
Mhm.
just like it hammers home that message every single scene in the movie. And I it's a very difficult watch. Like the whale was a difficult watch because it was like so vital and beautiful and it really like hit me. This one's hard to watch because I just wanted to like smash my head into the wall because I didn't want to see or hear this movie ever again. Um
Mhm.
but I I don't want to this on this overall package because I think if you do like these films, if you do like these fun schlocky movies, I mean this is definitely worth it at least for the first two. So yeah, it's a nice set. I just wish that it wouldn't have kind of just ended on such a sour note because I really just did not like it was just I no one likes to be preached at, especially in a movie like Birdemic. So I had a hard time connecting with it, and um, it was bad, and the director should feel bad.
Yeah. What as I said last week, whenever you were talking about this, I just know this is a movie or the box set not for me. So I'm glad people who are fans got it released, but like yeah, not for me. But moving on to my next title, going to Kino Classics. This is from 1951, and that is Peking Express, which is interesting because this almost kind of feels like kind of in league with Air Force One a little bit. But this is actually a remake of the Joseph von Sternberg Shanghai Express.
Mm.
But this now stars Joseph Cotton and Corinne Calvaire and Edmund Gwynn. So this is, like I said, kind of reminds me of Air Force One. Joseph Cotton, he plays a World Health Organization doctor. He is like kind of he is overseas. He's in the middle of kind of like this kind of like kind of civil war conflict in like in the country, and he boards this plane or this not plane Air Force One. He boards this train in which there's kind of some insurgent activity going on. There's like a mixture like his ex is on the train, but then there's also some like political leaders and it's like some opposition to the political leaders. So there's like kind of like it's like a perfect storm of like potential conflict on this train. So in addition to like political stuff bubbling, there's also this like romantic undercurrent between Joseph Cotton and Corinne Calvaire. And so there's like a little bit of a nice, interesting romance there. There's kind of like there a little bit of hesitancy because like they were once together, but then they like split up, and then she got remarried, but then her husband, who she was with, died. So it's like kind of like, is she ready to like love again and all that stuff? But then you also have all this crazy like political drama going on in the train, and it starts getting violent. People start getting stabbed and beaten up, and so yeah, it's just kind of like it's not like a full out action movie like I'd call Air Force One, but it's like a kind of thriller, light 1950s appropriate action. It is interesting. I don't think it's like amazing, but I think it's a perfectly entertaining watch, especially at 85 minutes long. It kind of like clips by at a nice pace. I have not seen the Shanghai Express, the von Sternberg. I believe that is in one of the Criterion von Sternberg boxes I have that I have not gotten through everything. So I think that's one that I need to get to. But as far as Peking Express, if you're a Joseph Cotton fan, he does a nice job. It's an entertaining enough movie, so if you're just interested, go for it. This is a really nice release. This comes from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter fine grain. It looks really nice. There are some still like little nicks and scratches here and there, but Paramount did a nice restoration, which Kino Classics is putting out. And the sound is like pretty solid as well. You don't get a lot of strain or anything. So audio and visual wise, it's really nice. You also get an audio commentary from Eddie Von Mueller, which is a pretty solid commentary track. He's usually good about giving some great like context to the film. So if you kind of like this kind of like action, kind of noir, thriller-esque time in the 50s, Peking Express is fine. It's not amazing, but it'll get the job done if you're just looking for that.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I do really like the von Sternberg version, so you'll have to report back when you check that out. It's pretty good.
Nice.
So my next one is also like thriller, but not very good. So this is The Fan. And the back, so no features, has some different artwork on the inside, nothing. Yeah, so I know like we all kind of love Tony Scott, and he's done some really great movies. This is unfortunately maybe one of those that is certainly not top tier in his catalog, but yeah, this is a pretty middle of the road thriller. It's really interesting because it feels very hard to be like Seven. The problem is not so much that it's not like it's a fertile enough story, but it's overstuffed, and it just becomes aimless and a little bit bloated. There's definitely I feel like a lot of filler and not a lot of killer in this. It is a great cast. Obviously, like De Niro's great, Wesley Snipes, John Leguizamo is in it. So we have a little Tu Wong Fu mini reunion, which is awesome. And the soundtrack is great. It's really interesting because it features some like remixes of like some really classic Nine Inch Nails. But yeah, this movie's 2 hours long. It does not need to be. It really is just too long. It's repetitive. It's not like lean and mean like it should be. But if you're a Tony Scott completist, this is like maybe $10 right now. So that being said, I hate to say this, but this does not look good on Blu-ray. It is very subpar. It looks maybe like a VHS upconvert. Yeah, it's not good at all. I would even say that like I wasn't really that thrilled with Fear, but this I mean looks even worse than that. So it's unfortunate. But again, if you just want the movie and you know the quality doesn't matter that much, again, if you collect everything that Tony Scott does, or maybe you're a De Niro fan or something, you know the price is right, but don't expect anything amazing as far as like look and sound goes. And again, the movie is just all right. It's again, I think it's something that you could even trim maybe like 30 minutes out of it and it would be completely fine. So a little disappointing. This is one that I've always kind of wanted to see because I was curious. I know I wasn't expecting too much because of the very lukewarm reception that it got, but yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, I watched this one for the first time last year on streaming. This is one that my wife kind of picked out because she was in like kind of that thriller mood. And I didn't dislike it as much as you. I think it's fine, but I do kind of agree that it did not need to be 2 hours long. But mostly it was held aloft by the performances for sure. That's what kept me most captivated. Just like a unhinged Robert De Niro being like a way too invested sports fan. It was enough for me, but like yeah, everything you were saying, I was like, I agree with this. I just kind of it worked a little bit better for me.
Yeah.
So like I don't disagree with anything you said. I just like I think it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Definitely not the best Tony Scott.
Yeah, I mean, I was never really bored. I just felt like it just definitely overstuffs everything. I felt like I get what they're like I get where you're going, but
Mhm.
there's a quicker,
Yeah, yeah,
leaner, faster, more efficient way to kind of convey what you're trying to convey. But yeah,
yeah.
if you like that cast, you like Tony Scott, I feel like you could do worse. So,
Yeah, except apparently Mill Creek could not do worse because
yeah.
they need to. I don't know. We need a new master on that, or at least a new studio handling it. But I won't bag on them. I will just go to my next release. This is slightly better transfer wise, but not too much than what you're just talking about. But that is from Scorpion Releasing and Ronin Flicks, and that is the Legend of Fong Yuk 1 and 2. A couple weeks ago, I talked about a Jet Li 2 pack. I believe it's a Tai Chi Master and another like a Fist of Vengeance or something like that. So this is another Jet Li 2 pack. Unlike that one, this is all on a single disc. So they share a disc. You have like a menu screen where you can just choose which of the films you watch and then pick the appropriate special features and all that good stuff. But luckily, this disc it's not like overly stuffed. And as far as like these movies are both just a little over 90 minutes, so like it's a little tight, but it's like not like crazy like compression artifacts or anything. I maybe a disc for each would have been better, but like it's not like a terrible presentation. But first, I'll just talk about the movies a little bit. This kind of like, of course, being a 1 and 2, they do kind of follow each other pretty well. Basically, um, I'm talking about a lot of like kind of like resistance, freedom fighter type situations. But Jet Li, he plays this apparently real life figure of Fong Sayuk, who he's kind of like a at the beginning he's kind of just like kind of aloof, kind of charming, not like kind of ladies man. He's kind of like he's just kind of charming to everyone around town. People like him. He kind of like sees like a girl that like he wants to start like dating, and he like starts pursuing her, not knowing that like she is the daughter of like this kind of like kind of emperor type person who's like in the area kind of suppressing people, and his own father is like starting to lead this resistance movement against the emperor. And I'm not sure if all this terminology is right, but that's just how my mind processes it. But basically, it's kind of like it turns into a tale of almost like forbidden love, where like she's the daughter of like the opposition. And this does turn into like a more of like an action, like some comedic elements, but like thriller. That it's just like martial, giving Jet Li a chance to show off his martial arts. The daughter of like kind of the emperor, she kind of comes around to like more of like the resistance side of thinking, and just like realizing that her dad is probably not doing great stuff in power. And so it's like kind of that kind of thing. One thing I really found interesting about these movies is that they make the lead character's mom a real badass, and she's like my favorite character in the movie. Like she's very like kind of like sarcastic and like kind of diabolical, but like in like a positive way. But she's like always like sneaking around, like kind of like beating people up and everything. It's a lot of fun. But like this does have like a lot of pretty solid action sequences. The second movie is not as like good as the first movie, I would say, but it's fine. It deals more with like him already being an established kind of like legend lore within the community, and it delves into it kind of like goes a little bit askance because it puts him back into like kind of the romantic interest uh kind of position, even though he is like now married. It's like he has to kind of like go undercover and like take on like a potential like fake wife, and like kind of some of the problems that causes him personally are like played a little too broadly for my taste. I just kind of wanted more like action, like because it's kind of like a little too comedic for what was happening. But overall, both movies are fine. They have some really fun action sequences. There's one crazy sequence near the end of the second movie where there's like a series of like tables stacked on top of one another, tables and chairs, and they keep like kicking tables and chairs out, and like things are collapse, but then they like stays like in place, and like it's just kind of like the way that tables and chairs are being shifted about so like people don't like plunge to their death is pretty insane, but I really thought it was fun. um but overall, these movies are fine. They're not my favorite Jet Li movies. I probably like the other two-pack a little bit more, but it's fine. These were previously released by Dragon Dynasty like a decade ago, but these are pretty much in line to the other Jet Li two-pack I talked about. They're a little bit like a little bit of an age source. You do see some nicks and scratches and age-related anomalies, but it's not like hideous or anything. It's just kind of like it looks like kind of like an older transfer, but it's fine. There's some texture and detail in their environments, but like it could be better. The soundtracks are fine. You do get like the original language and then like an English dub if you are interested in like that kind of cheesy experience. But like I always advocate for the original soundtrack. There's not really much in the way of special features on the second film. The first one kind of takes the brunt of the uh, special features duties. You get like a 21-minute interview with the director, a 13-minute interview with the writer, and like a commentary track, and I think a little bit like a few more featurettes here and there. But you do get a few good interviews. So overall, AV presentation is passable. There's a few good special features, and the movies are entertaining enough. For this being two movies, I don't think the price right now is too expensive. So if you're a Jet Li fan, this is pretty fun, but like not his best, I would say.
Nice. Yeah, I again haven't heard of those, but yeah, they sound, at least you said, kind of passable. So yeah, so I'm going to be finishing out the Rocky films, and I was really excited. So I am like now caught up with at least the original four films. So I'm going to be talking about 2 and 3. So yeah, 3 is really interesting because I don't think it's necessarily as good as the first two. There's like a slight decline, but I think it's still really interesting. I like that Stallone is sort of the father of these series. He's written all of them. He's directed most of them. I think maybe he didn't direct one, but
Yeah, there's a few that he hasn't directed. Yeah.
yeah, but you know, I think at least with these 4 films, I have at least written them all. So
Mhm.
um one thing that I want to get right out is I liked Hulk Hogan was in this for a second. I know, you know, the Hulk Hogan as a person is very complicated, shall we say, but like I'm kind of like have a soft spot for him because of being a 90s child, and
Mhm.
like seeing him is always super nostalgic. So yeah, but I like how this movie kind of really evolves. It continues to evolve Rocky as a character, but I think Apollo Creed has a really great character arc, and I love how they sort of grow his relationship with Rocky. That comes in to play more in the next film, but I do like how they kind of did that groundwork to make him a more interesting and compelling movie. And I know, was it Carl Mayweather that plays Apollo Creed? He
Mhm.
evidently, this is his favorite because he has the most sort of to do, and his character arc definitely feels really complete. So it's a good movie. Again, not my favorite, but I think it is a nice way to kind of round out the trilogy. They do have some nice emotional stakes. I won't give away because I know these are really old movies, but if you were like me and hadn't seen these previously, I won't spoil it. But there is a death that kind of motivates the final battle. Clubber Lang, played by Mr. T, is great. He's an iconic bad guy. Rocky 4 is such a 80s time capsule. I mean, the music, the geopolitical overtones, just how almost Djangoistic the viewpoint of this movie is. It's all very of its time. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If you are super nostalgic for the 80s, this is kind of like the movie for you. Again, it's really not my favorite. I think that we are definitely long gone from the gritty kind of grindhouse feel of the early entries, and this is definitely more spectacle. It's very much a big budget, slick outing. You have James Brown doing a amazing extravaganza to living in America. That whole like sequence with Apollo Creed is like next level. Uh I feel like that in the movie it's kind of meant to sum up, the decadence of Western society, and that really fits it perfectly. So what's interesting is this includes the theatrical cut as well as an alternate cut that I believe like Stallone had spearheaded, which is a little
Mhm.
bit longer. It removes the robot subplot, which was weird because like Polly gets this robot from Stallone, and I guess it's like his girlfriend, and like
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
yeah, so I mean, it's like something I don't want to dig into, like what he does with
Yeah.
this robot. But if you are uncomfortable with person on robot love, then you might like the alternate cut. So I will also, if you want to get into the details of how these cuts are different, I'll be sure to find a link to like a article or a video where you can actually like get into like the nitty gritty of the differences. I know it's not a hugely different movie. Like I said, it's only a little bit longer, and there's some things that are like take it out. So the fourth disc, or there's a separate disc, I mean, sorry, for the bonus features, um which is nice. It's housed on its own kind of thing. And yeah, we mentioned this last week, but there are some audio issues and a slight picture issue with one of them. I will be sure to link again the Digital Bits article that goes into detail about that if you all want to know. But as far as I know, there hasn't been a replacement program. But we will definitely keep you all updated on what's going on with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been trying to keep a close eye on if there was going to be a replacement program. There's been rumors that the set is being at least pulled from Best Buy shelves, so maybe that's like the beginnings of like a start for like maybe they'll do it, but we shall see. But I'm glad that they were at least released on 4K. I just hope that they get it right. Like I hope they correct it. So we shall see. My final title, I kind of saved. It's not a best for last, but I wanted to save an interesting one for last. Just I think this is especially appeal to you and our producer Andre. So watch out. This is from Yellow Bell Pictures and Vinegar Syndrome, and that is Calvaire, which is I believe French and like translate to the ordeal.
Mhm.
I you don't have to expand upon it, but have you seen this movie?
Yep.
Okay. This movie is wild, wild. And I really like I did not know what to expect. I was a little bit worried. See, this has reversible cover art here. And as is typical with like the Vinegar Syndrome partner label releases, there, if you go to the Vinegar Syndrome website, you can order a slip box version, and they have really nice slip covers, not just like the typical ones like the thin cardboard. They're like pretty nice, well appointed slip covers if you're a slip cover fanatic. And then you got this nice booklet here, which comes even with the standard edition, which like with some essay, like an essay and stuff, and like some still photos. So like I said, this is from 2004. What I took from the description of this, I thought this was like potentially not going to be for me. I thought this might just veer a little bit too much into kind of like torture porny, but like, which I'm not totally against. I like the Saw movies and everything, but then there's some movies, especially when they don't have anything else to supplement it, that I'm just like, this just seems kind of a waste of time. But there's more to that than just torture. What this is about is there's an entertainer at the beginning of the movie. It's set around like the holiday season. He is like takes his van to like travel to a gig. Along the gig, along the way his van breaks down in kind of like almost like the middle of nowhere. He reluctantly trusts this like guy who crosses his path, who is like looking for his dog, and he's just like, follow me, I'll take you to like a place to stay or whatever. And the guy's like, I don't think so, but okay. And he does, and then he like stays at this farmhouse overnight. And then of course the person that he is staying with is not all there. He's kind of he has a little something off about him, and he gets a little bit too invested in the new guest he has, this entertainer, and kind of gets a little bit confused about who he actually is, and kind of just like takes him on as like, I wouldn't say a pet necessarily, but it's kind of like that. Like he like starts grooming this guy, and it like kind of gets into like a torture-esque scenario where he's like keeping him captive, and just starts like inflicting like humiliation and some violence upon him. And you wonder, is that going to be the whole movie? Is it just going to be this guy getting tortured? And it's not, because like where this goes is like there's the town in which they reside is not pretty much any better than what this one guy is. They're all pretty much insane. There's like pretty much no mentally stable characters in this movie. They're all just kind of like have a little bit something off with them, and it's just kind of like it's a weird journey of a movie that I quite enjoy, just because it's like I've seen it compared to kind of like the family insanity of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which it's very different, but I kind of can get like the shared insanity aspect of it. And just this isn't really even spoiling anything, but just like the directions it goes, and like, yes, there is like some like harsh violence and like sexual like assault and all that stuff, but it is uncomfortable and unsettling, but it's not even as like graphic and vulgar as it could be. It's kind of like in that sweet spot where it's still somewhat entertaining, but it is deeply disturbing. But this movie was a lot of fun, dark fun. I'll underline that this is a darkly comedic, weird one, but like it's interesting. And much more than just torture porn, which I really appreciated. This new release comes from I believe it's a 2K scan of the like original negative. It says it's remastered and newly color graded, but as the director says in his intro, that they didn't try to like unnaturally change anything. They just kind of like brought out like kind of the best of the colors that they wanted. It's a really nice image. I really think it looks really nice in HD. So like not much in the like pretty much anything in the way of like nicks or scratches or digital anomalies or anything. It's a really solid transfer. The 5.1 soundtrack sounds really good. I mentioned that you had like a minute long intro, you have a commentary from the director and the production designer, you have another 38-minute interview with the director, you have some casting tapes, you have a short film, you have like different trailers and all that stuff. So if you're a fan, this is a really good release. I knew nothing about this before it was released, but it's a lot of demented fun. And I'll feel embarrassed if you do not feel it's as fun as I do, but I think it's a quite
Yeah.
a bit of fun.
No, I liked it a lot. I actually covered this in my film guide, and it's so funny because all this stuff was so hard to find or not like really accessible, but now we're getting these beautiful wide releases, which is great. This movie came from the French the extreme new wave French horror, and I think that's really an interesting topic, which I would love to do like a whole video on. But yeah, it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. It's something that I would love to revisit. I know I have the DVD somewhere, so it feels like I'll have to definitely upgrade that. And so my final title, we're going to be also talking about something wild and crazy, and that is Babylon on 4K. I love, God, I'm so excited to get into this. So here's the back. There is a J card, but it's in the other room. Sorry. So here is the interior. Um, so we have a whole separate disc just for the special features, and then for the 4K and the Blu-ray. And let me just pop these out to show you the interior artwork. Try to do that really gingerly. But while I'm doing this, I assume you've seen this, right?
Yes, I originally saw a screener back in December for my critics group, and it quickly became one of my favorite movies of last year. And then like I rewatched it to review the 4K and still love it. I love all 3+ hours of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. This movie is long, but I've seen some reviews where they're like, okay, yeah, it maybe is too long, but I'm like, can you really have too much of a good thing?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's
Mhm.
I mean, the whole movie is about excess. You would almost have to have the movie be also excessive. So yeah, I'm a sucker for movies about Hollywood, especially when it's a movie that takes a hard critical look at it. If you like Babylon, I think y'all would also like The Big Knife, which is an older film, but it's also a very hard look at stardom. Um, it's almost akin to Sunset Boulevard without like it's like Sunset Boulevard without the sort of wry humor that Billy Wilder brought to it. But
Mhm.
just to say that I do love these movies that aren't just Hollywood circle jerks, for lack of a better kind of word. So yes, this movie is bombastic. It's wild, like that opening scene with the
Mhm.
elephant has been burned into my brain. Um, and yeah, I just love how it tells a really great story. It's very heartbreaking. I love the one scene that is Lynchian. Anyone that's seen it will know. I don't want to. I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, there is a. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
um, and like stuff like that really sticks with me. Like I think there's a lot of really good emotional stakes. I don't know if those are necessarily like groundbreaking for me, but it's enough to sort of like give the film substance. And what's nice is if you don't know a lot of things about the silent film era, I don't think you really need to. This movie never alienates anybody. I just think it offers a rich drama, and I love that it never plays anything safe. Um, if you're kind of new to like maybe silent films or like the film like old Hollywood, this is pretty fascinating. It's a this isn't based on anything but I can't believe that some of this isn't based on some kind of reality. Like some of this stuff
Mhm.
probably really did happen. So yeah, it's great. The performances are fantastic. Again, it's just like well shot, well directed. I don't understand why it didn't get like did it get nominated for anything?
It got 3 nominations for like
Like
costumes, production
technical.
design, and score. Yeah.
Um like I firmly believe that the cynicism towards Hollywood is why it maybe didn't get Best Picture. I don't understand that this wasn't more widely praised. I think this is a movie that's going to find its audience over time. I think that, I could definitely see this becoming like a cult favorite. Yeah, this movie looks great. The 4K is really fantastic. Sounds great. Again, I like how they um took a lot of care to not like dump the special features on with the feature. That has its own disc, which is nice. And yeah, if you're not feeling the steelbook, there's also a 4K alternative, which I will also link that in the description, if you don't necessarily want the steelbook. But I mean, the steelbook looks gorgeous. I mean, this is the episode of really nice looking steelbooks, I think, because you had like two really fantastic ones as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so Babylon, holy shit. Great. I was just mesmerized. I thought it was so good. Very heartbreaking. Like some of the monologues, especially towards the end, were just
Mhm.
phenomenal. Like they just are they stick with me, which is really saying something because we both watch so many movies and all this stuff kind of blurs together. So um yeah, so I wanted to end this with on a high note. I very highly recommend that, and I guess that kind of does it for this episode. As always, I'm going to do the obligatory give us a like, comment, share, all that good stuff that really helps us out. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us.